A few months ago, as you may remember, I had a psychotic break and decided to punish my physical and mental health by ranking every steep steps ladder. So, I believe it would be the appropriate thing to do the same with the gliders. Lucky for my mental health, there are not nearly as many gliders as there are ladders, being only 17, which next to the 44 ladders I had to rank last time, it almost makes me want to cry of joy. Before starting, there are a couple of points I'd like to discuss. First, due to how limited the amount of gliders are, I will be ranking each one of them, even the ones that cost Robux, although be advised that costing real-life money will affect them negatively. Second, unlike the ladders, the gliders are much more consistent in terms of quality. By this I mean that, most of gliders are pretty equally good, only being a couple of real stinkers, so take into consideration that this will be a way more subjective ranking. And third, these are the following points I'll take into consideration when ranking the gliders. The first and most important is obviously the design of the glider, basically what most gliders have going for them. The second point will the valuability. This refers to how difficult it is to obtain them. Robux gliders will get a 2 out of 5 by default in this category. And the third and final point will be an extra for having a ladder that they match up with. So without further to add, let's view the complete glider ranking.
I cannot see, I'm legally blind.
I know I said in the past that I shouldn't really be too harsh when criticizing someone's work, and I will, but golly gee, where do I even start with this one? Okay, so, one tiny problem a few gliders have, and by tiny I mean that completely ruins the glider in its entirety, is that some gliders are too big.
Hell no, man.
To the point that you can't see where you're gliding at. I don't really have to explain why this makes a glider completely useless, because what's the point of using it if I can't know where I'm going? But from all those few broken gliders, the Dragon glider is the only one which costs Robux. So you're basically paying real money for a broken item. And not a small amount precisely. Because the Dragon glider is worth 1,000 Robux.
Madman is actually 999 Robux.
Shut the f up, you bitch asshole.
But hey, I'm gonna be completely honest, the design is actually one of the best in the entire game. But you see, I don't really give a f about how good it is, because if it actively breaks the gameplay, then it's a 1 out of 5 in my book. So due to being the only glider in game which actually affects the player negatively, by taking $10 real from them in exchange for a useless, broken item, the Dragon glider gets the honor of being the only F-tier glider in game.
I like singing. I like dancing.
I like trains.
To obtain the train glider, you have to complete the train engineer quest located at 600 meters of altitude on Wild West. The quest is quite easy, and it won't take you more than a few minutes. The difficult part would be reaching the 600 meters area, since due to Wild West's broken difficulty curve, the hardest section in the entire mountain happens to be the 500 to 600 meters section. However, just like the Dragon glider, the train glider enters the category of gliders that ruin their entire purpose with one killer move: being too wide. But unlike the Dragon glider, it's not worth Robux, so it's only useless. And obtaining it won't result in you being depressed for having wasted your money. So I guess that makes it deserving of the D tier. Congrats, I guess.
Thanks, Satan.
Out of all the gliders, this one may be the most nonsensical in terms of design, because even the Dragon had a theme that made sense with items that are used for flying. But this is just the Wild West train model, but slightly smaller. Not enough though, because I still can't see where the fuck I'm going. Sure, the model is amazing and the person behind it is clearly talented, but come on, couldn't y'all have created some sort of unique small train or wagon? Because as a result, the only reason why I think obtaining this glider is worth it, is due to how easy the quest to obtain it is. Still, using this glider over fucking default is wanting to play the game in hard mode.
What's wrong? Snake!
Finally, the final glider which suffers from the size issue.
Please!
After this we'll finally get to gliders that actually work. From the big boys trio, the snake glider is the one I can tolerate the most. And also, just like the train glider, it's free, so you won't waste money. Still, this thing will make your game unnecessarily hard. The only reason why this glider is above the train is because it cannot be obtained anymore. Making it more valuable, since design-wise is the same. A cool-looking glider whose design unintentionally breaks the gameplay. Therefore instantly getting a 1 out of 5. This glider is nearer to being a trophy than an actual glider, and just like train, I haven't seen no one use it after the week it came out. Probably the most iconic glider, default is the glider you get in grassy grounds when activating the Polar Quest, or in Wild West for existing. I gotta be honest, unlike the default ladder, the default's glider's design is a bit of a letdown, even if it's literally the default item. The default ladder looks like a normal ladder. But the default glider looks like something you'd find in a Steep Steps developer test room. Still, default actually works, so only by that gets higher than the ones we already saw. It's a boring, bland, default item that gets the job done and nothing more. But hey, having the default item appear this early in a ranking video is testament of how good the gliders usually are in this game. Just like its ladder counterpart, Flower is one of the more forgotten gliders. Design-wise, it has the same problems as the Flower ladder, this basically being the wasted potential its theme has. Because instead of an actual flower glider, we got a bush glider. I'll be honest, for some reason I find the flower glider slightly prettier than its ladder version. Still, compared to the average glider it still falls flat. The only reason why the flower glider is above default is due to being more valuable, and also having a parable ladder. I'd be quite surprised if I saw someone using this as their main. Basically, the better glider nature-themed tree presents a way cooler design than flower. I can totally understand someone liking this. Sadly, it is not my personal case, and I happen to be the guy making this ranking video, so yeah. It's not ugly, but definitely not my cup of tea. This glider can be obtained in a secret cave located at 300 meters of altitude in Wild West, which despite not being pretty difficult to get, I gotta say, the cave is quite tricky to find, and you'll probably need a guide to do so that gives it valueness points. Nothing that special overall.
Fire in the...
First of all, I'd like to mention that from the last glider to this one, there has been a significant improvement in quality, so all the gliders we'll see from now on are just good at worst, and straight up masterpieces at best. With that saying, another glider which costs real money.
Chao, me voy a suicidar.
But this one is not a scam. But still, any kid who wants this will be forced to perform the ritual of begging their mothers for Robux. Either that or...
Finally, some good fucking
Robux.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like...
The design is pretty kino, which is the only reason why it's as high as it is. Since in terms of valueness, it brutally crashes and burns, the glider is 400 Robux, which is not worth it in my opinion. It's kinda baffling to me that the freaking golden ladder is 100 Robux. And stuff like this or the dragon glider are as expensive as they are. But hey, at least it works, which is something you can't say of the rest of the Robux gliders.
Just be normal.
Kinda ironic that the non-Robux Eagle glider gets the upper hand in the ranking. The design, just like its fire counterpart, is amazing.
Now, this is epic.
It may not have a parable ladder, but hey, unlike its fiery version, it's way more valuable, since the Eagle glider was a weekly item which cannot be obtained anymore. The Eagle theme is quite cute and fits the flying mechanic of the glider, and of course, it works, which from now on, that's a given.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
The skeleton glider can be obtained for completing the temple quest, which is located at 400 meters of altitude on Wild West. The temple is not a difficult place to reach, since Wild West only gets difficult from 500 to 600 meters and never again. Despite that, don't let your guard down, dear viewer, because the temple quest is actually pretty damn tricky, and will most likely take you a few tries before you can complete it. In here, you'll have to take a bomb into an area located at 447 meters of altitude before the time runs out. During your run, multiple floating clocks will appear which, in case of being touched, will give you extra time. Despite this, the time is extremely tight, and the clocks never respawn until the quest is over, so you'll not only have to perform perfectly the sections, but also, you'll have to do them as quick as possible, often having to take risks. So yup, despite being located in a very easy area to reach, the scalability exponentially increases due to the difficulty of the quest. In terms of parability, there's technically a skeleton glider, but this one can be only obtained in simple steps, so I won't count it. And in terms of design, man, this was extremely close to being one of my favorite gliders design-wise. Why had that skull to be in the glider? Please, tell me I'm not the only one who thinks that the skeleton glider would look 10 times better without that random skull. Anyways, this glider used to be my main solely because I wanted people to know I had completed that stupid annoying bomb quest. Overall, a great glider.
Mira que estaba diciendo, digo, ¿no habrá templos o algo así, ¿sabes? Pues sí.
Dumb, stupid, gigantic noob.
I love when an item fits the environment where it can be found. I wholeheartedly believe this should have been the glider gifted for completing the bomb quest, since it overall fits the tone and the place better.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
The design is cool as hell, and it gets a pretty high grade there. And in terms of value, it does too slightly well, since this glider cannot be obtained anymore. I wished it had a parable ladder, since a temple ladder would also look sick in my opinion. A very good glider.
Elementary cactus head.
Just like the temple glider, Cactus was a weekly item that cannot be obtained anymore, and thus, its value is pretty high. Its design is also pretty cool, fitting completely the area where it could be found. In both design and value, Cactus and Temple were completely tied for me. And the only reason why Cactus got the upper hand is because there's a Cactus ladder, therefore getting points for parability. And if you don't have Alzheimer, because I literally mentioned this like 40 seconds earlier, you'll remember how I mentioned that there's no temple ladder and steep steps at the time of me making this video. Maybe Mountain 4 will bring a temple ladder, but until then, Cactus stays at number 7.
Welcome to the Himalayas!
In my ladder ranking, I put the Glacial ladder was lower than the Cactus ladder. Since not only I found Cactus prettier, but the Cactus ladder is also extremely valuable. However, in the glider department, I'm afraid Glacial has the high ground. I'm aware many adore the Glacial ladder, but I never could find the appeal people have for it.
Damn, what is that, bro?
But strangely, with the Glacial glider I can see the epicness of the design. It's true that this glider can be obtained nowadays, which should make it way less valuable than Cactus, and despite being not as rare as it, the truth is that Glacial is also very valuable, because sweet mother of ladders. The location of the Glacial ladder is quite tricky to reach. The Glacial glider rests in a hidden room behind a fake wall, which can be located at 900 meters of altitude in grassy grounds, aka the hardest mountain and steep steps. To be fair, from now on, any glider could be the number one in anyone's ranking, since the only reason why Glacial is not higher is because I don't like its design as much as the ones coming ahead. Still, an epic glider who deserves to be in your inventory.
Glider.
To be fair, flame-type items have always been a yes for me, since in my ladder ranking, the flame ladder got ranked 4th out of 43. However, I gotta admit that in this case, is the ladder the one that clearly gets the upper hand. Since while flame ladder got a 5 out of 5 design-wise in my ladder ranking, the flame glider only gets a 4 out of 5. Don't get me wrong, with its design alone, flame was gonna get ranked 9 or above, but what truly makes this glider reach the A-tier category is the valueness. The flame glider is the most valuable glider in game, since it was the first weekly glider to be ever introduced, and it cannot be obtained anymore. This, alongside having a parable ladder, makes flame reach the 5th spot in the ranking.
Hey, yo, the pizza here.
Easily one of the most unique gliders in game, pizza is a delight to the eyes as it is for the mouth. I love when the gliders actually take advantage of the design of the gliders to make something as creative as possible. It sometimes doesn't work that well, but when it does, the results are always amazing. Pizza was easily the best glider back then, but sadly for it, as time went on, equally or even better gliders have appeared. Gliders that would finally take away its crown, because believe me, you need to be one hell of a good glider to get higher than pizza is, and that happens to be the case of the following gliders.
In my world, everyone's a pony, and they all eat rainbows and poop butterflies.
To be honest, if I had done this ranking a few months ago, Butterfly would probably be way lower than it is. But for some reason, the design of this glider has really grown on me as time went on, to the point that it went from being one of the mid gliders in game, to be one of the most iconic ones,
in my opinion.
But be careful, dear viewer, because design is not the only department where this glider shines, since it's also pretty valuable. To obtain the butterfly glider you must complete the code quest. This quest requires you to find the different parts of a code, build the code from those parts, and finally open a secret door that can be found in a hidden room at 447 meters of altitude in Wild West. Thing is, not only will you probably require a guide to complete it, since the pieces of code can be easily missed if you're not paying attention, but also, this quest requires you to have reached 1,000 meters of altitude in Wild West. And therefore, just like it happened with the skeleton glider, the difficulty of the quest increases the value of the glider. And about parability, I had this problem. There's a ladder called the moth ladder, which for some reason I felt like it was related to the butterfly glider. Well, turns out that's not the case. But hopefully, there's actually a butterfly ladder in game. So yup, butterfly gets points for parability. And that's the story of how Butterfly bet pizza and got into the podium. Before continuing, I must make a clarification. One problem I tend to have when making this ranking videos is that rating something from 1 to 5 is just not enough. By this I mean that, more often than I'd like, I'm forced to give 2 items which clearly don't have the same quality, the same grade, and this was the case with the final 2 gliders, because listen, I do love the pizza glider design-wise, that's why I gave it a 5 out of 5. But these last 2 gliders are so above and beyond that, giving them the same grade as pizza just doesn't feel right to me. So for the first time in a ranking on this channel, I am breaking the grade system. Because both of these 2 gliders get a 6 out of 5 design-wise. Anyways, let's view who these 2 legendary warriors are. What else can be said about Paper? Being my personal favorite glider, Paper probably has one of the smartest design concepts, not only from the gliders, but from the entire game. This is one of the few items that when it came out, everyone agreed that this had to be one of the best gliders in game, and for good reason. Throughout the making of this video, there were many times where Paper was the number 1, because its design reaches levels of uniqueness not understandable for human minds. Sadly, truth is, Paper is dragged down a ton by its valueness and pairability, and trust me fellow viewer, if Paper was even slightly rare, and by this I mean a 4 out of 5 or above, I would have ranked it first. Paper glider is only slightly rare, because not only can be obtained nowadays, but is not behind a middly easy quest, or in a difficult area to reach. The Paper glider can be located to this very day, at 800 meters of altitude in starting steps. Right before where this mountain gets actually hard, if only Paper could be found at 1000 meters, or hell, at 900 meters, then I would have been able of giving it a 3 out of 5 in valueness, and therefore, the number 1 of this ranking. Because Paper also happens to lack of a parable ladder, still, I don't really need to explain that it's impressive as hell that Paper got second only with design alone. If you are starting this game, please, remember to stop for a minute at 800 meters on starting steps to get this glider, because yup, is worth your time and inventory, easily the biggest gift the game will make to you. It was a difficult task to decide which from Golden or Paper had to own the number 1 spot in the ranking, since both are peak in terms of design and concept, but ultimately, and thanks to pairability and valueness, Golden ended up taking the crown of this ranking. I already mentioned this in my ladder ranking, but I just love Golden versions of default items, and the Golden glider is no exception. And unlike the Golden ladder, which is just a recolor of default, the Golden glider actually has some small modeling differences to default. Design-wise, just like Paper, breaks the charts. The Golden texture looks better than ever, hell, even better than it does in the Golden ladder. In terms of pairability, it also happens to be paired with one of the coolest looking ladders in game, making for what is in my opinion, the best pairable duo of steep steps, and in terms of value, well, to obtain it you must complete the minor mystery quest, which is not hard at all, however to be able to complete it you gotta reach 800 meters of altitude in Wild West, which requires you to surpass that one actually hard section. Seriously, my only complaint with this glider is that I wish it was harder to obtain. Because the Golden glider is so good, it just feels wrong to be able to obtain it from such a random quest like Miner's Mystery. In conclusion, the Golden glider is in my opinion, the closest to perfection a glider has been in this game yet. Not only having pairability, not only being somewhat valuable, but also having a design overall simple, and yet, so unique, pretty, and pleasant to look at. Because if the Snowflake ladder teaches us something, it is that a design can be both simple and pretty. And the Golden glider is one of the best examples of this, and my pick for the best glider in steep steps. Hi there fellow viewers. With this video, we have only 2 more steep steps related videos left to go. These 2 are the third and final part of the steep steps mystery iceberg, and another very special video that will serve as my, for now, farewell to this beautiful game. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I tried being way more respectful than last time, since I really don't want to have to make a sequel to this video. If you still think I was somewhat rude, feel free to tell me on Discord DMs, and if your complaints have a point, I'll be willing to take them into consideration. So, that was today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and also, happy 2024 and good night.